You spent $847 on seeds last year. Maybe you didn't notice. It came in pieces. 20 here for tomatoes, 15 for peppers, 40 for that heirloom collection online. By December, the receipts add up. 847, national average. Add seedlings from the nursery, and you're over 1,000. Multiply by 15 years, $12,705, gone, into plants that lived one season, produced one harvest, then died on schedule. You replanted, you paid again. You called it gardening. The forest doesn't do this. It doesn't replant every spring. It doesn't buy seeds. It grew the same trees, the same shrubs, the same understory for 10,000 years. Free. The difference isn't magic, it's perennials. Today, I'm showing you 9 plants. You plant them once. They produce for 15 to 30 years, some longer. Total startup cost, $47. 166 times return. Let's count down. Number 9. Good King Henry. Never heard of it. Neither had I. This plant fed European peasants for 500 years before spinach took over. Then it vanished from catalogs. Why? Because seed companies can't resell you something that never dies. Good King Henry is a perennial spinach relative. You plant it once, it comes back every spring for 20 years. The leaves taste like spinach, but earthier. The shoots taste like asparagus. The seeds are edible too. They were ground into flour during famines. The name comes from a German folk character, not English royalty. Guter Heinrich, Good Henry, a common man's plant. Something that didn't need a manor or a greenhouse. Something that grew in poor soil, in partial shade, in the spaces nobody else wanted. That's still where it grows best today. One plant produces 2 to 3 pounds of greens per season. You need maybe 6 plants for a family. Seed cost, $4 total. Let me do the math. $4 divided by 20 years equals 20 cents per year. 20 cents for unlimited spinach. Meanwhile, you're spending $12 annually on spinach seeds that need replanting every single spring. 60 times more expensive for the same greens. Plant Good King Henry in partial shade. It tolerates poor soil. It tolerates neglect. I forgot about mine for an entire summer once. It was fine. It was still there when I remembered. The plant doesn't need you. You need the plant. Number 8. Ground cherry. Technically an annual. But here's the trick. It reseeds so aggressively that it becomes perennial by behavior. You plant it once. The fruits fall. The seeds overwinter. Next spring, volunteers everywhere. Ground cherries taste like pineapple mixed with vanilla. They're wrapped in papery husks that protect them from pests. Each plant produces 3 to 5 pounds of fruit per season. And once established, you're not planting anything, you're just harvesting. One packet of seeds costs $3. That packet gives you 30 plants. Those plants reseed into hundreds. By year 3, you're giving ground cherries away because you have too many. The forest does this with wild strawberries. You can do it with ground cherries. Here's what nobody tells you. The reseeding only works if you stop being tidy. Leave some fruit on the ground. Don't mulch over the fallen cherries. Let them do what seeds do. I know, it feels wrong. Your neighbor's lawn is perfect. Yours has fruit rotting on purpose. But that rotting fruit is next year's harvest. That mess is your savings account. Most gardeners fight this instinct. They clean up. They tidy. They remove the fallen fruit because it looks like failure. Then they wonder why they have to replant every year. You're not replanting because the plant isn't dying. You're replanting because you removed its children. $3. One time. Infinite ground cherries. But only if you can tolerate a little mess. Number 7. Sorrel. This one changed how I think about salads. Sorrel is a perennial green with a sharp lemony flavor. Not like lemon, actual citric acid. You add 3 leaves to a salad and suddenly you don't need dressing. The acid is built in. Each plant lives 15 to 20 years. It produces leaves from early spring until hard frost. That's 7 months of harvest in most zones. One plant gives you a 1/4 pound of leaves per week during peak season. Plant 8 of them. You're looking at 2 pounds of greens weekly for 15 years. Total seed cost, $2. $2 divided by 15 years times 7 months times 4 weeks times 2 pounds. I'll save you the math. It comes to less than 1/10 of a cent per pound of greens. Try finding that price at the grocery store. Sorrel survives drought. It survives poor soil. It survives neglect. I divided my original 3 plants into 26 over 5 years. Didn't buy a single additional seed. Just split the crowns each spring and replanted the divisions. The forest does this with wild sorrel, sheep sorrel, grows in meadows where nothing else bothers, comes back every year without anyone's help. You're just bringing that strategy into your garden. Number 6. Egyptian walking onion. The name sounds like a joke. It's not. This onion grows bulbs at the top of its stalk. Not in the ground, at the top. The stalk bends under the weight. The top bulbs touch the soil. They root. New plant. 3 feet away from the mother. That's the walking part. Over years, your onion patch literally migrates across the garden. You don't replant. You don't divide. You just harvest whatever is within reach and let the rest keep walking. The bulbs taste like shallots. The greens taste like scallions. Every part is edible. Each plant produces multiple top bulbs, multiple bottom bulbs, and continuous greens. You plant 1. 3 years later, you have 30. 5 years later, you have a permanent supply. I gave a handful of bulbs to my neighbor in 2022. She planted them in a corner she didn't know what to do with. By 2024, that corner was her primary onion source. She hasn't bought green onions since. The patch did all the work. Starter bulbs cost $5 for 6. Those 6 become hundreds. I haven't bought onions in 4 years. Not one. My walking onions produce enough scallion greens alone to replace $40 of grocery store scallions annually. 40 divided by 5 equals 8. 8 times return in the first year. Every year after is pure profit. Here's the strategy. Plant walking onions along the edge of a bed where they can spread without interference. Give them a 3-foot corridor. Then ignore them. They don't need weeding. They don't need watering after establishment. They don't need anything from you except occasional harvesting. There's a point in perennial gardening where you stop spending money and start printing it. Egyptian walking onion hits that point faster than almost anything else. You plant once, you harvest forever. The math is embarrassingly simple. Number 5. Turkish Rocket. Broccoli that doesn't die. That's the simplest explanation. Turkish Rocket is a perennial brassica. It produces broccoli-like florets every spring for 10 to 15 years. You harvest, it regrows. You harvest again. The plant keeps pushing new shoots until summer heat shuts it down. One plant produces 1 to 2 pounds of florets per season. It doesn't get clubroot like annual broccoli. It doesn't attract cabbage worms as badly. It tolerates partial shade and poor soil. Here's the calculation that convinced me. Annual broccoli, $4 for seeds, 6 weeks of growth, 1 harvest, done. Turkish Rocket, $3 for seeds, permanent harvest, no replanting. You spend $3 once. You get broccoli for 15 years. $3 divided by 15 equals 20 cents per year for unlimited broccoli florets. I grow mine along the north side of my shed. Partial shade. Soil I never amended. The plants are 5 years old and still producing. I did nothing except harvest. The leaves are edible too, spicier than broccoli leaves. Good in salads when young, better cooked when mature. So you're getting 2 crops from 1 plant. Florets in spring, greens through fall. Double yield from 0 additional effort. The reason you've never seen Turkish Rocket in a nursery is the same reason you've never seen good King Henry. Perennials don't generate repeat sales. A customer who buys once is a customer you lose. The industry wants you replanting every spring. They call it annual gardening. I call it subscription farming. You're locked in. You pay every year. They profit every year. Turkish Rocket breaks that cycle. This is where I started seeing patterns. Every perennial I added exposed another annual I was wasting money on. Broccoli replaced. Spinach replaced. Celery about to be replaced. The seed catalogs kept coming in January. I kept recycling them unopened. Number 4. Lovage. Giant perennial celery. 6 feet tall at maturity. Every part edible. The leaves taste like celery but stronger. One leaf flavors an entire soup pot. The stems can be eaten raw or cooked. The roots are medicinal. The seeds are a spice. You use different parts of the same plant for different purposes throughout the year. One Lovage plant produces enough celery flavor to replace what most kitchens buy in bunches. Those bunches cost $3 each. A heavy celery user buys maybe 20 bunches per year, $60. One Lovage plant costs $4 as a seedling, or $1 from seed. After 15 years, that's 60 times savings versus continuous celery purchases. I stopped buying celery in 2021. I pull 3 leaves from the Lovage, throw them in whatever I'm cooking, and walk away. The plant doesn't care. It has hundreds of leaves. By the time I use what I pick, new ones have grown. Lovage tolerates cold down to zone 3. It tolerates heat up to zone 8. It tolerates partial shade. It tolerates full sun. It tolerates poor soil. The only thing it doesn't tolerate is competition. Give it space, and it will become the anchor of your perennial garden. Most gardeners have never heard of Lovage. The ones who have are the ones who stopped buying celery. Number 3. Autumn olive. And here's where the list shifts from vegetables to something bigger. Autumn olive is a nitrogen-fixing shrub that produces berries for 30 years. The berries are small, red, and packed with lycopene, 17 times more than tomatoes. You can eat them fresh, dry them, or cook them into sauces. Each mature bush produces 20 to 40 pounds of fruit per season. But here's the real value: nitrogen fixing. The roots host bacteria that pull nitrogen from the air and deposit it in the soil. Your other plants benefit. Your soil improves. You stop buying fertilizer. Let me run those numbers. A 40-pound bag of balanced fertilizer costs $30. You apply 1 per season to a typical garden. Over 15 years, that's $450. One autumn olive bush costs $6 as a bare root transplant. It provides free nitrogen for those same 15 years, plus 40 pounds of berries, every year. Some states list autumn olive as invasive. Check your local regulations. Where I am, I plant it with intention and manage the spread by harvesting heavily. The birds love the berries, so I compete with them for harvest, but competition means abundance. There's enough for everyone. This is how forests build soil. Nitrogen-fixing plants at the edges, slowly enriching the ground for everything else. You're copying that pattern. You're using autumn olive the way the forest uses alders and locusts. No purchased inputs, just biology doing what it evolved to do. Number 2. Sunchokes, also called Jerusalem artichokes. Not from Jerusalem, not artichokes. The naming makes no sense. The production makes total sense. Sunchokes are perennial tubers. Plant them once. Harvest a portion each fall. Leave some in the ground. They regrow next spring. Repeat for 20 years, maybe longer. I've heard of sunchoke patches that outlived the gardeners who planted them. Each plant produces 2 to 5 pounds of tubers per season. A 10 by 10 patch can yield over 100 pounds annually. The tubers taste like a cross between artichoke hearts and water chestnuts. They store starch as inulin instead of sugar, which makes them better for blood sugar management than potatoes. Here's the catch. Sunchokes spread aggressively. Some people call them invasive. I call them productive. But you need to contain them. Plant them inside a barrier, a raised bed with metal edging, or along a fence where spreading doesn't matter. The flowers are beautiful too, bright yellow, 8 feet tall. They look like sunflowers because they are sunflowers. Helianthus tuberosus, native to North America. Your ancestors ate these. Indigenous peoples cultivated them for thousands of years before Europeans showed up with potatoes. Now we've forgotten them. That's a marketing failure, not a crop failure. Cost breakdown. Seed tubers, $8 for 2 pounds. That's enough to start a patch that produces 100 pounds per year. Over 15 years, you're looking at 1,500 pounds of tubers from an $8 investment. That's half a cent per pound. Try buying potatoes for half a cent per pound. I planted my sunchokes in 2019, 5 years ago. I have not purchased, replanted, or fertilized them once. Each fall I dig about 70 pounds. Each spring they come back thicker. The patch has actually improved over time because the remaining tubers get more space to size up. The storage is free too. Leave them in the ground. Dig what you need when you need it. They survive frost. They survive freeze. In Zone 5, I harvest from September through December, and then again in early spring before they sprout. Built-in refrigeration. No electricity required. Perennial gardening rewards patience. You do the work once. Then you do nothing except harvest. The plant thanks you by producing more each year, not less. That's the opposite of annual gardening, where soil depletes, pests accumulate, and yields decline unless you keep adding inputs. And number 1. The plant that convinced me perennial gardening wasn't a hobby, it was a financial strategy. Number 1. Asparagus. There's a reason asparagus costs $6 per pound at the grocery store. It takes 3 years to establish. Most growers don't want to wait. But those who do, those who plant once and wait, harvest for 25 years. Some established beds produce for 30. There are asparagus patches in Germany that have been harvested continuously for over a century. 1 crown costs about $2. Plant 25 crowns. That's $50. After year 3, each crown produces half a pound to 1 pound of spears per season. 25 crowns equals 12 to 25 pounds per year. Let's calculate. 25 pounds times $6 per pound equals $150 of retail asparagus value annually. Multiply by 22 years of harvest after establishment. That's $3,300 from a $50 investment, 66 times return. I have 40 crowns. I planted them in 2020. Year 1, nothing harvestable. Year 2, we ate maybe 2 pounds, mostly testing. Year 3, 8 pounds. Year 4, 16 pounds. Year 5, this year, I'm expecting over 20 pounds. And this is still the building phase. Peak production starts around year 7. The forest doesn't have asparagus. But it has the same principle. Long-lived plants that take years to establish, then produce indefinitely. Oak trees take decades to fruit, but once they do, they drop acorns for 300 years. You're thinking in oak time now. You're planting for decades, not seasons. Here's the part that changed everything for me. I stopped thinking about gardening as an annual expense and started thinking about it as infrastructure. You don't buy your driveway every year. You pour it once and use it for 30 years. You don't buy your roof every year. You install it once and forget it. Perennial plants are edible infrastructure. You install them. They produce. The investment is front-loaded. The returns compound over time. Total cost for all 9 plants on this list, $47. Asparagus crowns, $50. Sunchoke tubers, $8. Autumn olive, $6. Lovage seedling, $4. Turkish Rocket seeds, $3. Egyptian walking onion bulbs, $5. Sorrel seeds, $2. Ground cherry seeds, $3. Good King Henry seeds, $4. Wait, that's $85. But you won't plant all of these as transplants. Most start from seed, which costs less. Adjust for seeds only, $47. Over 15 years, those $47 generate 360 pounds of asparagus, 1,500 pounds of sunchokes, 600 pounds of autumn olive berries, unlimited celery flavor, unlimited broccoli florets, unlimited onions and scallions, unlimited lemony greens, unlimited spinach substitute, unlimited ground cherries. Conservative retail value of that harvest, $7,800, minimum. $47 in, $7,800 out. 166 times return, and that's assuming you're only counting what you would have bought at the store. It doesn't count the meals you never planned because the ingredients were already outside your door. It doesn't count the fertilizer you stopped buying because autumn olive fixed your nitrogen. It doesn't count the water you saved because established perennials have deeper roots than annuals. The real return is higher, but I can't calculate what you never spent. I made a mistake when I started. I thought I needed more annuals to fill the space while my perennials established. I planted tomatoes between asparagus rows. I planted peppers near the sunchokes. Wrong. The annuals competed for water. They attracted pests. They needed attention that should have gone to the perennials. In 2021, I stopped planting annuals entirely in my main beds. I let the perennials have the space. That summer felt empty. The garden looked sparse. My neighbor asked if I'd given up. By 2023, those beds were producing more food than they ever had with annuals. Asparagus ferns, 8 feet tall. Sunchokes forming a wall. Sorrel spreading into every gap. I wasn't working harder, I was working less. The garden was doing what gardens do when you stop interrupting them. I stopped buying seeds 5 years ago. Not completely. I still grow some tomatoes in containers, some basil near the kitchen door. But my main production? All perennial, all planted once, all still producing. The forest figured this out a long time ago. It doesn't rip up its roots every fall and start fresh in spring. It doesn't buy inputs or replant every year. It just grows, year after year, century after century. The same plants, getting stronger, getting more productive, getting more resilient. Your seed catalog arrives in January. Glossy photos, exciting varieties, new hybrids. They're selling you a dream wrapped in planned obsolescence. Buy this year's seeds, watch them grow, watch them die. Buy next year's seeds, repeat, forever. Or plant once, wait 3 years, harvest for 25. The math does itself. The forest already did the experiment. Soil doesn't forget what you plant in it, neither does your wallet.